The SmartWatch 3 is Sony's latest wearable, and is its first to run Android Wear. So how does it fit into the smartwatch landscape? Here's our full review. Bucking the trend of the round displays favoured by LG and Motorola, the SmartWatch 3 sports a more conventional rectangular build, with a 1.6-inch 320x320 transflective display. Specs include a 1.2 GHz quad-core processor with 512MB of RAM, Bluetooth 4.0, NFC, an array of sensors, plus it features GPS built in, so you can leave your phone at home when going for a run and still have the tracking benefits of a sports watch. The Moto 360 and LG G Watch R have circular displays with premium builds rich in metal and leather. Sadly, the Sony SmartWatch 3's square face and default rubber band give it the look of a sports watch more than a fashionable timepiece. With built-in GPS and IP68 water and dust proofing, it seems Sony is pushing this at fitness fans, and if you're looking to replace your running watch, this might just do it. The rubber strap is fairly comfortable, though dust tends to stick to it and becomes a bit grubby, and it uses a metal folding clasp, which along with the metal power button contrasts the plain band nicely. The watch itself can be popped out of the band, but it unfortunately doesn't support standard watch straps, so you'll have to stick with those built by Sony or third-party manufacturers. It has a micro USB port on the back, which is interesting as many smartwatches use a wireless or proprietary charger. The SmartWatch 3's display is a respectable 278 ppi, which, although crisp and clear for a smartwatch, means that text and images are less sharp than on a 1080p smartphone. Colours could be richer, and while the square shape may not be the most aesthetically pleasing, it does mean more apps are compatible, and it's also just big enough to comfortably interact with. Being transflective makes the screen easier to read in direct sunlight than most competing smartwatches, and it has a decent auto brightness setting which not only adjusts to ambient conditions, but will also light up while tapping, raising your wrist to your face, or receiving a notification. You can turn the screen off completely to extend the battery life, but that does limit its usefulness as a day-to-day watch. Android Wear is a far more locked-down version than the smartphone offering. The reduction in bloat is great, but it does make it hard for a manufacturer's UI to really stand out in the crowd. A long press on the clock brings up a selection of faces, and you can swipe in various directions to see and sort information cards, show remaining battery and mute options, and access settings and cinema mode, which ensures the screen stays off unless you press the power button. Tapping the clock face or saying OK Google will access voice commands, but you need to speak slowly and clearly, and in a lot of cases it takes longer than just reaching for your phone. Calls, messages and notifications will show on the screen and vibrate, which it turns out is much more noticeable on your wrist than in your pocket, so there'll be far fewer missed calls and alerts. If you answer a call, it comes through on your phone, so no awkward wrist conversations here. It's also worth noting that while the SmartWatch 3 has its own settings screen, certain settings are only accessible from the Android Wear app on your phone, such as tilting the watch to wake the screen. It seems odd and unnecessary to separate features like this, but it's not too big a deal once you know where things are. Installed apps can be accessed by navigating to the start screen or by giving a voice command. Out of the box, there's not much included, and the Android Wear apps are pretty basic due to the size of the screen. For example, you can see your agenda for the day but not a full calendar view, or you can navigate to an address but you can't scroll the map. Playing music is particularly troublesome, as the only way to get it onto the 4GB of internal storage is to upload it to Play Music, then make it available offline on your phone, and even then you can't specify which songs you want to add. It will just sync all the offline songs, or as many as it can fit. Given that there's a handy micro USB port, it would be nice if you could hook the SmartWatch 3 up to a computer, and you'd also need a pair of Bluetooth headphones given the lack of a mini jack socket. Right now, the selection of Android Wear compatible apps is limited. For example, if you have the Google camera, you can manually control the shutter from your watch, but many other camera apps aren't supported. Similarly, while Hangouts lets you reply to text messages from your wrist, other apps don't, so to get the most out of the SmartWatch 3, or any Android Wear device, you may have to change your default apps. Hopefully this will change as more apps add full Android Wear support. Other than GPS, the Sony SmartWatch 3 has a built-in step tracker, and with Sony's LifeLog app on your phone, you can view detailed stats from calories burnt to hours slept to even how long you spent listening to music. But while you can view a previous day's activities, it doesn't give a clear breakdown of how your performance has changed over time, so you can't easily track progress. We're not sure if the SmartWatch 3 is a replacement for a running watch or fitness band, but if you predominantly want a smartwatch yet like the idea of taking it for the odd jog or ride, this could be the wearable for you. Battery life is an even bigger issue on smartwatches than it is on smartphones, as not only do some of them perform worse than the average handset, but people are less used to having to regularly charge their wristwatch. The Sony SmartWatch 3 has a 420 mAh battery, which is big for a watch, coming in just larger than the LG G Watch Rs, and much larger than the Moto 360s, so that's a promising start. Sony reckons it can last for up to 2 days of use, and we'd say that's about right. We can't see it ever lasting longer, and if you use GPS, that life begins to plummet. plus it would be nice if it supported wireless charging. Still, it's up there with the best battery life of any smartwatch other than the Pebble. The Sony SmartWatch 3 puts function ahead of form, delivering one of the best user experiences yet, but with minimal style. Sadly, that means it's still not quite the complete package, and it's not cheap either, but if you favour geek chic over high fashion, this could be the most compelling smartwatch yet. It stands out from much of the competition through impressive performance, a good screen and solid battery life, not to mention the inclusion of GPS, which makes it a better fitness accessory than most smartwatches, despite an imperfect implementation. When it comes down to it though, it fails on style, or lack thereof. It's far from an ugly device, but it's merely passable, and that doesn't really cut it with a watch. If it had a metal or leather strap and a round face, we'd be in business, but as it stands, it's got the substance but not the style. On the other hand, if you don't care so much about style, we wouldn't hesitate to recommend it as one of the best smartwatches around, and as Android Wear continues to mature, it will presumably get even better. What's your favourite smartwatch? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more tech news, reviews and features.